Welcome. What's good, y'all? Welcome to CyTOX Sports Locker Room Talk with your boy, Eli Griffin. Again, we are powered by RSTP Media. Catch us on TikTok, X, and Instagram at RSTP underscore media for all the latest of all the shows that we present on CyTOX Sports Podcast, Mile High Mindset with me and Larry Stroh, and here with the locker room talk. All right, so let's dive into it, fellas. NFL season today. Uh, Philadelphia and the Cowboys in Philly, and previewing this game in the NFL season. It's exciting. Football season is back. Are we ready to go? You feel what I'm saying? So excited for not just all football enthusiasts, but from betting to, pickups, so all the good things that come with football season. You know what I mean? I always like to indulge in a couple drinks and some beers. Sorry for the before we move on. Sorry for the background, everybody. I'm moving studios, so that's just kind of how it is right now. But diving into this game, Eagles are uh minus 8.5 point spread. Again, Eagles defending champions pretty much brought back the whole team. They lost a couple key defensive players, but nothing too crazy on the offense. Oh well, the right guard, I believe, Becton went to the Chargers. Overall, you can pick this game. I'm gonna pick this game in my pick 'em. So I'm just looking forward to what the Cowboys are going to present on defense against Philly's offense without Dallas Cowboys without Micah Parsons. It's going to be weird, but I'm very intrigued on how this is going to go. Eagles, they're probably just going to run the ball with Saquon Barkley and maybe play action pass with Jalen Hurts and get him to the receivers, which they got one of the top receiving cores in the league, and I'm just intrigued to see how the Cowboys are going to come out after all the whole hoopla with Micah Parsons and all that. But get into this game today, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, because that's the time I'm on, and just check your local listings, I guess. But I'm very intrigued to see how Philly comes out. You know, they always say it's hard to defend your championship to repeat. So we'll just see what happens. But also, I really want to see how Dak comes out after his injury and stuff. I got Eagles. If you're gonna bet, I pick Eagles money line, but we'll see with that. So that's just kind of how I see it. So again, we'll just see how the Cowboys are with their additions with Pickens and CD Lamb on the outside, Javonte Williams in the back, and see how Dak Prescott comes out firing, see if they fire on all cylinders. Offensively, defense, pretty low ranked. I think they're in the end of the 20s last year. So we'll see with that Michael Parsons how that's going to turn out. So super excited for this game. Football season is back, everybody. So again, like subscribe down here below for, some debates, some talks about what's going on now. I want to preview and check out the Chiefs against the LA Chargers in Brazil. So with this one, this is the AFC West opponents rivalry, one of the rivalries in the AFC West. We'll see if Kansas City Chiefs got that Super Bowl hangover. And when I say that is, everybody's been doubting them, but I still think they're kind of scary. So we'll see how they come out. You know, they're a little older team now. We'll see how good that defense can come out and do their thing. So we'll see how that. And I'm intrigued and interested in seeing what Jim Harbaugh has in store for Herbert and that offense with Omarion Hampton that they just drafted, Najee Harris that they picked up, and see if Lad McConkey could just repeat what he did last year. He was on my fantasy last year and he made me some points. So let's see if he can get into and see if Trey Harrison, all of them can kind of take a step up in their offense, because their offense, I know Herbert had good numbers, but they were the kind of mediocre. I'm used to him having 30 plus touchdowns, about 4,000 yards, but Jim Harbaugh likes to run the ball a lot. So we'll see how that works. And just seeing these two old foes we'll just see how they continue. I just kind of see, fill it out. I think this is going to be a little more of a low scoring game, because Kansas City, she rises out for what, 6 games. I know they got Worthy and Hollywood Brown still, Travis Swiftly, but we'll see what happens with that. But no, shout out to Travis Kelsey. I'm just messing. But with those two teams, we'll just see how that comes about, and just see how the Chiefs bounce back from everybody thinking that they're dead. I don't believe so. It's going to be a fight for the AFC West just because the AFC West is so much better than it was before, or was last year, just with the Broncos getting all those players, the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh, and even the Raiders with Pete Carroll, and kind of trying to start building up the Raiders. So I think it's going to be competitive AFC West. I have in this game, if I'm betting it, I'm going to take the Chargers in plus points in the spread, just because I just don't know what Kansas City is going to bring, even though everybody's picking Kansas City and there's no way that they could have a hangover. You just never know with Kansas City, and we just never know how they're going to come out. And I feel like their defense, to me, been good, especially with Spags back there calling the defense. But we'll see what happens. They're getting long in the tooth, and we'll just got to see. So I'm excited for that game. That's on Friday. That's awesome. That's Friday. I love the fact that the NFL has opening games Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and then Monday. So it's a whole full slate. Everybody's playing, and we're just going to check that out. Now, moving on to a couple of things that I noticed this past weekend, and not just noticed, but understanding just the big headlines, so to say, is Arch Manning. And how I see it, he struggled against Ohio State, which I think everybody kind of knew that he was going to. One thing, so with Arch Manning, he struggled, like I said, against Ohio State, but it's no, I guess you can't say it's his fault. You would think he would be at least a little bit better, since he's so-called the first person in the draft and the best quarterback coming out, which I've already stated before. He's not coming out. He's going to play these next 2 years before he even gets to the league. That's just the Manning way. And how it looked on last week, I wouldn't be surprised if he does stay for the next 2 years. He's only going to get better. Don't fault the kid. He's only, 19, 20. And it's not that serious. I sit here and as I watch that game, he struggled a lot. He missed a lot of throws. He looked confused. He had happy feet, and just overall, it was like he's playing his first game. I know he started 2 games last year, but they were at home, so he had that crowd advantage and that comfortable ability to kind of just sit back there and make plays. This time, he's going to a hostile environment, and in Ohio State in the shoe, they threw a whole bunch of stuff at him. And Matt Patricia, ex Bill Belichick disciple, threw everything, confused him. He looked lost. He looked jittery, but it's okay. It's his first start. He's going to keep on growing and getting better. I believe he could, he can be he could be a great quarterback. He just got to develop. Everybody's making a big deal about, he looked terrible and this is what you want. This is what, just talking all that stuff. Just like I stated before with Shador Sanders, just let them grow into the position. Let's not try to, just because his last name is Manning, let's not try to just expect him to be great right off the bat. I don't think anybody's just great off the bat. You got to work for it. You know what I mean? So, but this is something that was said about Ryan Clark said about Arch Manning, and somewhat I believe is true. Just a simple fact that it's, there was nothing big coming out of high school that he was supposed to be this great quarterback. I think just because his last name is what people are really just trying to put that on to the kids.
Arch Manning is more so other people than him. He didn't ask for these expectations. Other people gave him these expectations without doing their due diligence. Arch Manning, period, point blank, is neither a generational nor transcendent talent. Arch Manning can't run like Lenoris Sellers. He can't throw like Garrett Nussmeier or Bryce Underwood. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not Caleb Williams. Those guys were what people felt like were generational, can't miss college quarterbacks, right? College football talents. And they were. Want me to explain to you how they were? Kelly Bryant was the quarterback where Trevor Lawrence got to Clemson. They went to the college football playoff semifinal. Kelly Bryant ended up finishing his career in Missouri because he was replaced in the middle of the year by Trevor Lawrence.
So yes, I don't think it's a big deal, but Brian Clark does have a point when it comes to, everybody's putting that expectation on Arch Manning, and I don't think you needed to put that much into Arch Manning. So, everyone calm down. It's his first game against the defending champion. So let's just calm it down a little bit. Let that man grow into that position. I think he'd be all right. So moving on to the top 25 AP poll. As you can tell, Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Georgia, Miami. So Ohio State had a big win. Miami had a big win. They pulled it out the end. LSU had a big win over Clemson, which I picked Clemson. I thought Clemson was a little bit better overall, but it is what it is. And then, and then you got Michigan. Hey, Bryce Underwood looked great for a true freshman. He's big. He's a generational talent. Right there, I feel like in what 2 years, 3 years, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, he's gonna come out and probably be the number one pick overall. Florida had a big win. Florida State had probably one of the biggest wins in the board thing in Alabama. I know heads are rolling down there in Tuscaloosa, but it happens. Like I don't think anybody realized that Florida. I didn't think Florida State was going to win. I know Alabama. They did are spazzing out, and I know the donors going to be on their ass. But not everybody's going to be Nick Saban. So Alabama, slow down. It's a long season. It's only week one, fellas. So relax on that. But this is the top AP top 25. Utah put a spanking on UCLA and Nico, and Tennessee looked good. But overall, it's all going to be good. We'll see what happens. All that good stuff. So I just think the whole thing with Alabama is very intriguing just because the Borg is not going to be Nick Saban. And I keep on telling people that, there's going to be some bumps until he starts getting his feet. I honestly don't really give a shit about Alabama. And I know everybody's an Alabama fan or whatever it is, but Nick Saban ain't going to help y'all no more. Just like they said, just like the quarterback of Florida State said, Nick Saban can't recruit no more. He can't do whatever Nick Saban did. He is the greatest college coach of all time in my eyes, but you can't, Nick Saban's not there to save him no more. So you're just going to have to figure it out. Do I think that they're going to drop out of they're going to win? So it's still Alabama. So, but like I said before, now you know who the true Alabama is after Nick Saban. So Alabama fans, you might have to get used to stuff like this because people are going to catch up to you, especially with the NIL and people, all colleges will be able to get these 4 or 5 stars, all this money. Now you're not the gatekeepers anymore. So I guess we'll see. So now moving on to the whole seat lost to Georgia Tech. Okay. So one thing about it is, there were some things that kind of crossed my mind when it comes to this. Overall, we need to get the receivers the ball. They're the playmakers, and they got tons of receivers in this game. I believe that Caden Salter and the offense look glitchy, iffy. It felt like he was questioning himself. Is he going to run or is he going to pass? Maybe he was nervous. The lights are bright, like Coach Prime always says. Lights are brighter with him coaching the team. So yeah, maybe I don't know his nervousness, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. But what I got out of it is they need to give their guys the receivers the ball more. The O line looked decent, looked good, looked way better than the last 2 years. and they're going to continue to get better because it's a group thing. Those five always got to work together. As long as they don't switch them out as much as they did in the previous years, I think they'll be okay. And just overall, Kaden Salter, don't question, just fire that ball. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel. The defense looked okay in the first two and a half quarters, and then third quarter they couldn't find a run fit to save their life. And I feel like they were just tired for how many plays that they played. You know what I mean? Defense, I feel like either they're the same or they improved a little bit, but I just feel like especially their D line and O line, or their D line and linebackers have improved. But being on the field that long, it's just going to wear people out. Coming from a linebacker slash DN back in my day, if you're playing 60 something plays and you're tired and your offense go one 3 and out, stuff like that, it starts to get tiring for everybody, and you just kind of get tired. But I think that's kind of what happened. Honestly, I personally think that college football needs like a one game, one preseason game, just to kind of get the kinks out, so everybody that first week or 0 week can start clicking just a little bit faster. But overall, I don't think CU looked that bad. Granted, there are some time things that I know people asked Coach Prime about, and he said that, I think he missed the timeout. I think after that negative play, I think they probably should have, or no, not the negative play, the play after where they got like 14 yards and they needed 15. I think he burned that timeout there because in retrospect, you get the first down, you've already got another timeout. So technically, you could have had 3 timeouts. That's how I would have played out a call timeout. You would have had like 45 to 35 seconds on the clock, and then maybe quarterback sneak it, or maybe a little screen or something to get that 1 yard, or whatever play you would have called there. I would have called maybe like a quick snap, boom, get a first down, probably get 6 to 8 yards. Clock stop to change the clock stops to move the chains, and that's another timeout. You can go ahead and do your thing, and then you still have one more left. So that's kind of how I would have played it. Do I understand what Coach Prime was doing when he didn't call the timeout? I kind of see where he's coming from. Just simple fact is, he felt like, okay, be right there. Now, if we hurry up and get the first down, then we'll have 2 timeouts as well. But he didn't. I don't think he planned on Kaden Salter running across the field, just barely get the timeout and burn like 10 to 15 seconds off the clock. So I didn't think that was. I think he's just taking it on the chin, as he's not being sensitive in a way of he's getting mad. I think he's just pissed off, and he just kind of knew that young player made a mistake on that, and he's just trying to take the blame and just trying to hey, we still have 2 timeouts. I'm not trying to take timeouts, but that's what I think overall. What was really going on. Other than that, the play calling was a little iffy as well. And when I say that, I think we need to give the receivers the ball more, go down the field more, maybe do a little bit more mesh. Do we blame that on Pat Shurmur? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's okay. Maybe he called a more conservative game. Maybe it was Shador Sanders. Whatever it may be, I think what needs to happen is, let's get the balls to our playmakers more. You had Omarion Miller made one catch, and in that catch, he tweaked the hamstring. Let's get Draylon the ball. You got Sincere Brown. But if you get them on some mesh, maybe, some little easy things to let your athletes, throw a 5-6 yard pass and let your athletes get it going. But overall, I thought the run game was a lot better than the last 2 years. Michael Welch needs the ball more. Track Hawk and Kalen Taylor, they're all pretty good. You know what I mean? And you still have Dallin Hayden on the bench with the injury. So I think we can run the ball. The offensive line is very improved a lot. So right there, I'm not too worried about the run game in that spec. We just need better play calling, as just get your playmakers the ball. If Pat Shurmur comes out this week, gives them the ball, I think they'll be okay. But, Kaden Salter needs to just settle down. Bright lights, you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. But, just be the quarterback you could be. Everybody seen that liberty, and you be fine. I feel like they left a lot on the field. I feel like they made mental errors more than physical errors. They were pretty physical. They had 3 turnovers in the game, or 3 turnovers in the beginning of the game. Didn't capitalize that, and I that on the offense. If you'd have did that, they would have scored those 3 times, went 3 for 3 off those turnovers, it'd have been 21-0, and then you're going to get Georgia Tech out of the running game that they wanted you to get. Okay, so now with all that being said, let's move on to the next upcoming game against Delaware. So Delaware, I'm Colorado is a 25.5 point favorites in this game. Should they come out and beat the brakes off of Delaware? CU, yes. Do they have better talent? Yes. Should we see better offense and defense? This be a 25 point? It should be. But my headlines going in for CU is, are they able to fix the mistakes of last week? Can they come out there and dominate and be dominant against a team that's not as good as them? Can they play CU football where they can dominate? Okay. And then we'll see with that. Also, another headline is Coach Prime has stated to all of us, to the world, I guess, and to the media. He had a press conference yesterday that
a couple weeks ago that, Caden is the starter, obviously, but you expect to see Julian at some point this season.
Yeah, he's playing. He's playing this week for sure.
What do you expect to see out of
I know when I'm going to see him.
What's that?
You just don't know when you're going to see him. I know when we're going to see him.
So with that, Coach Prime stated that Julian Lewis is going to play. I still feel like Katie Salter is going to start the game, headed into the game, but I think we're going to see more Juju Lewis come in there, throw it. And at the end of the day, for that young kid to get in there, and if he balls out, hey, that's just what it is. Katie Salter had his try. I'm not blaming that kid for not playing up to what everybody expected him to play. Again, it's just one of those things where the best players play, and we're going to see who's going to play. So this game right here, this week's game, like I said, if Juju Lewis comes in there and balls, it is what it is. You just keep him in, roll with the hot hand. I guess that's what Coach Prime is going to do, which I'm totally okay with that. You just got to understand that best players pay, like I stated before. What I think is going to happen is, can they come out and put it on Delaware? Can they be the team that Coach Prime wants? And they should dominate this team. It's just a fact. It has to be that way. I don't think it should be close. It should be at least, to me, 20. It should be at least 14 point spread, or they should win by at least by 14 points. Now, if they don't, now that makes me kind of like, okay, how good is this team? You know what I mean? Was Travis and Shador that great of players that I believe that team would have blew this team out? I don't know. Who knows? It's not about last year. It's about this year. Now, what we're going to do, those are the big storylines that I see. The key matchup, again, is here for me, and this going into this game is the receivers. The key matchup is the CU receivers against Delaware's defensive back. Simple fact is they need to get the ball. CU needs to somehow give their playmakers the ball. So those are my key matchup. Can they get involved in this game and see how it turns out? My prediction, I'll give my prediction in a minute. So that's my preview of the game, and that's how I see the way to victory at CU is. They got to give their key playmakers the ball, as well as, can the defense kind of gel more together? Can they become a better defense? I understand this is a superior team, but can they just get those kinks out? Can the offense get the kinks out? Can Pat Shurmur make calls to get his playmakers involved? Can we run the ball a little bit more? I know it's quarter or running back by committee, but I feel like maybe Michael Welch should run the ball 15 times a game. You know what I mean? Give him the ball a little bit more, because it seems he was getting at least 5.8 yards per play. So why not give him the ball more? You know what I mean? And like I always say, offense is not an offense. I know it's an air raid offense. Let's get under center. Come downhill. You know what I mean? Let's move around a little bit more. But those are my takeaways and my keys to a CU win. Now I want to get into my power rankings for this year or for this week, and these is what it is. I got Arizona State still at 1, Utah at 2, Iowa State, Kansas, TCU after not a big win, but an ass whooping they gave to North Carolina. BYU had a pretty good team. Texas Tech, they didn't really play nobody, but I actually dropped them down from 5 to 7 just because they didn't play nobody, and I feel like BYU and TCU's wins were better. Kansas State, I moved them up because they won, but they were number 9 last week. They only moved up 1 spot. I got Houston and UCF jumping in to the top 10. CU falls out with the loss against Georgia Tech, as well as I think that's about it. And I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. So again, CU is minus. So now with that, we're good. I just think they just got to come out aggressive, physical, and I think CU will be fine. It's a long season. They lost 1 game to a good Georgia Tech team. I think they'll be fine. Just come out, no more excuses. Let's try Coach Prom. Let's try to get the clock stuff right. Maybe hire an analytics guy. Who knows what y'all could do? But just or a timekeeping assistant. But maybe that, or just who knows? I always just say you play or you coach football with your gut, and that's how I always done it. So why not? Sometimes us coaches and coaches make mistakes, so that's just what it is. So I don't believe that it's going to be a big deal. But it's going to be a rough pass. Or after these next 2 games, Delaware and then Wyoming, it's going to be, I believe they have TCU at the end of this month, and that's going to be a test to see how they stack up in the Big 12. And now hopefully they got the kinks out and the glitches out with the offense by then, and the defense kind of gel more together after these next couple of games. So that's always good. Also, again, Locker Room Talk, again, it's every Thursday, 11 a.m. time. Like and subscribe. Follow me on the socials. Look out for all our shows. Mount High Mindset, again, every Friday. And then Sundays after Broncos game. CyTOX Sports Podcast coming out, revamped coming out soon. Again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Again, NFL tonight and Friday. Check that out. Like, subscribe. Much love to you. Love to y'all. Till the next time I see y'all. Peace.
Welcome.